Okay, here's a little part two from the last video. I watched over it and thought of some things that maybe I left out. And one thing that I didn't talk about before was why I think those voicings sound good. There's always a big emphasis on voice leading and stuff like that, and obviously, it looks like I'm playing stuff pretty far. If I were to voice lead it, I don't think it would sound very good. And here's what it would sound like. G, E7, A minor 7, D7. And the reason it doesn't sound very good is because the top note, there's no melody. So when I use these other voicings, here's my melody. And I could vary it with the rhythm. So that's the long story short. I don't think voice leading lends to good melodies on the top, which is what I think makes the difference between good compers and bad compers. Not that I'm a great comper or anything, but that's always what I listen for. Okay, another thing is, I don't remember if I touched on this, but how to make voicings. There's really nothing to it. Everybody learns the stock chords, and if you know the scale around the chord, then you know where all your notes are. So let's say I wanted to add the ninth to this. The ninth is an A. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A. And I wanted to add the 6 like I did. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's basically it. So turning the 7th into the 13th, here's B flat 7. I find the 5, and I make it into a 13. Nothing to it. For the 2 chord, I kept saying sus in the last video, but what I should have said was 11th, because I think sus implies that there's no third or something like that, because it's suspended. So for the 11th, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, oops, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So that's basically that. Another thing I want to say is that I'm calling these B flat 13s. They can easily also be called E sharp 9s if that's the way you want to think about it. But I decided to go with the 13th because I like that I can base everything off the first voicing and then come up with different variations based on one simple thing instead of thinking of it in many different ways. Not that it's bad to know all that, but that's just my thoughts behind that. So now I just have one more idea that we can add to this chord progression, and that is using, I think what we would call substitute chords. So we were using the tritone sub over the 5 chord, but there's other things we can do. For example, over the G major chord, we can play a minor 7th chord off of the 3rd of that. So for G, we would play B minor 7. And that also adds more melodic movement. So what I would come up with was this. Which just adds a little bit more. You don't want to be hanging on the same chord forever. This is going to get really old really fast. So we can add that minor 7th off the 3rd. And you can do it as long or little as you want. And because we have a nice top note, it kind of holds everything together with a nice melody. Another cool thing is, just like we used the 11th off the 2 chord, we're going to add that to this substitute, which we can call G major still, you can call it B minor 7, whatever you want. So our melody was. So I'm just using those same chords as before. The G6 9, B minor 7 with the 11th, B flat 13, A minor 11th, A flat 13. Now I'll do it with a little rhythm. And the cool thing is you can use this stuff to come up with some intros. So maybe I'll do like a little tiny intro and then I'll play with a little rhythm, just so you could see how I'm tying everything together. Okay, here we go. Throw in one more thing here. The last thing I did, I added another approach chord. So remember we added the 5 of the 2? Well, we're adding the 5 of that B minor that we added, the substitute of the G. And that is a C13. So you can basically approach anything you want with the dominant chord and it's going to sound pretty good. And my favorite obviously is the 13th. Or the sharp 11 with the 9th is pretty good too, I think. Let's try that. Yeah, that's pretty good. I'll do it slow. Sharp 11 to 9. Okay, so I think I said everything I felt like saying. So let me just do a little review of the new things that I added onto this, and you can go on your merry way. So we started from the other video with G major 7, A minor 7, D7. We turned the G major 7 into a G6 9, and then the 2 chord into an 11, and the 5 into a tritone sub using the 13th. Okay, then we approach the 2 chord with the 5 of that. Okay, then we added the B minor, which is the 3 chord, or a substitution for the 1 chord. And I made it 11 too. And just because you added the 11th doesn't mean you can't play the regular one after the 11th, like this. But it might be a little too muddy, so what I like to do is just use that note as a melody note. See? Okay, next thing we did was we approached that chord with the 5 of that, which was a C 13th. And let me backtrack. I got the C 13th because the 5 of B minor is G flat 7, and the tritone of G flat 7 is a C minor, and I like that movement. Okay, and I think that's it. So have fun with that, and I'll play a few more times through, starting from simple to most complex, just so you can see how I might do it in a normal situation. Here we go. I'll start most basic. And I notice I slid into a few chords. You can do that too, to your leisure. I think it's a good way to add some movement. So, like I said, it's all about the melody on the top. Not so much the individual voice leading, but because that doesn't really, it doesn't sound like it's saying anything. It's nice, beautiful chords, but it's not telling you something like when you have the melody on top. Okay? Alrighty, have fun.